2023. And we're set today on the court's docket for a permanency review before final. So, Ms. Cudato, the attorney for the department, has joined us. So, Ms. Cudato, who would you like to call as a witness?
I believe the caseworker, Ms. Morales.
Okay. So, Ms. Morales, if you'll raise your right hand for me, please. You swear the testimony you're going to provide in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And is Belong an agent of the department providing case management services to children in care?
Yes.
Okay, great. How old is Austin?
Austin is 14.
Okay. And he still currently plays?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. How is he doing there?
He's doing really well. Austin is in level 2 at this. So part of that level, he had to complete a polygraph test, which he did recently complete earlier this month and passed it. This was his second polygraph because he failed the first one. He did pass the second polygraph. So he will now be starting family therapy, and part of the program is he will need to review his polygraph with his parents, and they kind of discuss the polygraph and any triggers that Austin may have and things for them to look out for. So that is the next step.
Okay. And so this family therapy that they're going to be engaging in, has that started yet?
That has not yet started. That will be scheduled though. Austin's therapist will be getting that scheduled, and we're hoping that will start either at the end of this month or beginning of the next month.
Okay. And is that therapy something that's going to take place or will it be done in a virtual setting to accommodate the parents?
Austin will be in person with his therapist, and then the parents will be participating virtually.
Okay. Okay. All right. And so aside from the family therapy that is going to be starting soon, Austin is receiving individual and group therapy too. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And how often does he receive individual therapy?
He gets the individual therapy, I believe it's twice a month, and then the group was weekly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And does Austin have any medical needs that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that he is on medication for mood and sleep.
Okay. So do you believe that Austin's placement continues to be able to meet all of his needs?
Yes, at this time, yes.
Okay. And do you believe that it's that his placement continues to be in his best interest at this time?
Yes.
And so is Belong asking today that the court continue Austin's placement?
Yes.
Okay. Before we turn to the parents, is there anything else you'd like the court to know about Austin this afternoon?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. So let's turn to the parents. What services are they? Let me back up. Sorry. Do the parents have individual service plans, or are they together on one service plan?
They're together on the one service plan.
Okay. And what services are they ordered to participate in?
So they are ordered to have safe and stable housing and maintain employment and complete a psychological evaluation, engage in individual counseling. Mr. Grom to complete a drug and alcohol assessment. They are to engage in parenting classes, and then of course just follow any of the recommendations from the psychological as well as Mr.'s probation terms.
And so at this time, what is Mrs. engaged in?
Mrs. completed a psychological and she was referred to individual counseling and parenting classes. So she is engaged in weekly counseling with Lucia Cobb, and that is also virtual. She
Okay.
was set up for parenting through Chosen, and they had like an initial intake appointment, but they Chosen felt that they would benefit better from a structured parenting course rather than chosen services right now, since at the time they were not having any contact with Austin and there was no date for Austin to return home. And so I did refer them to parenting classes through Midcoast, and those will be weekly for 10 weeks, virtually as well. And so they have the information for that, and they will begin that next Thursday. Chosen did say that once Austin returns home, that they could then step in and kind of offer services for the family with Austin in the home.
You mentioned that mom completed the psychological evaluation. Did Mr. Grom his psychological evaluation?
Yes, he also completed the psychological. He completed his drug and alcohol assessment in September, and no recommendations were made from that assessment. And he is also engaged in counseling with Lucia Cobb. They both live in a trailer that they own, and they are both employed.
Okay. Is there anything that the department feels or that Belong feels the parents should be engaged in that they're not engaged in at this time?
At this time, no, they just need to continue with counseling and, of course, start the family therapy. That's going to be a big piece, and then engage in the parenting classes.
Going back to the family therapy, do you happen to know how often that will be occurring?
I'm not sure yet how often Austin's therapist is going to be including them into that. So we'll have to see once she has that initial appointment with them.
Okay. And my guess would be that you also don't know the duration of that family therapy either, correct?
Right. Not right now.
What concerns, if any, does Belong have right now regarding the parents?
So right now, I think our concern is just make sure that they have a good plan in place on how they plan to protect all three of their children just from any future abuse or neglect. I know that during counseling, their individual counseling sessions, which we have had the conversation with them just about kind of really fully understanding and believing that this actually occurred, because they were making statements in counseling that likes to lie for attention. And so I just didn't want that to, come across as that they didn't believe this happened. And so we did have a discussion with them on that. And they state that they do believe that this occurred and that they do plan to supervise the contact between the siblings. They are working on just developing a plan on how things will look moving forward. If Austin was to come home, they plan for Austin to live with them and for the other two siblings to remain living with Bobby, their aunt, which is where they're currently staying now. And then any contact between the siblings would be supervised between them. So that is something that they are going to continue working on in therapy, and then, of course, in family therapy.
What is the current permanency goal in this case?
So on the court report that we filed about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was not family reunification. That was our backup goal, but we are changing that goal back to family reunification just due to the change of circumstances. Their criminal cases now have been addressed, and Tammy was given time served for her charge, and then Mr. Was given 6 years deferred adjudication. So there's no orders refraining their contact with Austin. So we are able to start family therapy. We're able to start visits. So all of those things have started. And since they are engaged in services, we are going to change that goal back to family reunification.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning visits. How have in-person visits begun?
Yes, they actually had their first visit this morning with Austin.
Okay, both parents?
Yes.
Okay. And did that take place?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And do you have any information yet on how that visit went?
Not yet, no.
And how often will they be having this in-person visitation?
They will have the in-person visits twice a month for an hour, and they will take place there.
Is there any plan for phone contacts between Austin and his parents?
We have not discussed phone contact yet. I kind of just wanted to have that first in-person visit and then maybe also have the first family therapy session. So then we can kind of determine at that time if phone calls, would be okay and how often, and supervised, unsupervised, and how all that will look.
Ms. Morales, is there anything else that you believe the court should know today?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Hilly. You're muted, sir.
Did you have a chance to discuss with the mother that if they do the services together, that they both have to be successful to be able to get reunified with the child?
Yes.
Okay. And as to the mother, she indicated that she is about to do the parenting class and she's in counseling. What else does she need to focus on?
So she needs to start the parenting classes, which they should begin that next Thursday. And then the family therapy. She needs to continue to engage in counseling and just really kind of fully understand, or I guess just kind of maybe just discuss with the therapist, just their understanding of the case and, how they plan moving forward to keep their children safe.
And you mentioned earlier the therapy notes. Would you be able to forward them to me once received, as indicated earlier today when you've been talking to you?
Yes, I sure will.
Thank you, Pastor Witness. Thank you.
Mr. Cadmar.
Thank you, sir. You realize we're set for trial on the marriage on April 18th?
Yes.
Do you think this case is appropriate for an extension at this time?
At this time, I believe that would be necessary.
Thank you. Pass.
Mr. Quinta. Let me see if I can get you unmuted. I'll help you with that. There you go.
Ms. Morales, do you know if how close Austin is to making it to level 3?
I did ask the therapist that. They really did not, they didn't really give me a time frame. They just kind of said that the next step would be starting family therapy. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer he would have to be in level 2, or at what point in the family therapy will they be moving him over to level 3. So I'm not too certain on that. I do know there's 4 levels total, but all I know is that they were wanting to start family therapy, and they just said I guess the next step of the program is just for them to start working with whoever he's going to be returning home to. And since right now the plan is for that to be the parents, they want to start the family therapy and just start working on that. So I don't know if maybe once that's in the middle of family therapy sessions, maybe then he'll be moving over to level 3 or how that would work. But they didn't give me a set time.
So the visits that started today will be 1 hour twice a month?
Yes, sir.
And are those subject to being increased if the therapist suggests that that's a good thing for Austin?
Yes.
And Austin has said that level 3 was important to him because he gets to potentially leave the facility with someone for a day or some hours, basically to go off campus. Is he still having contact with his uncle?
Yes. So he does have contact with his Uncle Travis, and I do believe Uncle Travis visits him during family day and things like that.
Okay. And do you think that his needs are being met where he's at this point in time?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Morales, just briefly, Judge, thank you. Ms. Morales, you mentioned that there's 4 levels to it.
Yes.
Okay. And do we have in general, when a child is there a usual amount of time that it takes for that child to get to level 4, or does it just vary child to child?
I'm not sure. I have not worked or had kids there, so I'm not certain on the time frames.
At this point, we don't know, like you mentioned, we don't know how long it'll take him to get to level 3. Once he's at level 3, we won't know how long it'll take him to get to level 4, correct?
Correct.
So at this point, we don't really have a good idea of how long Austin will be, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Hilly?
No questions, and I rest.
Okay. Mr. Cadmeyer?
No questions.
And Mr. Quinta, any other questions for Ms. Morales?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Corrado, do you have any other witnesses you wish to call today?
No, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hilly, did you have a witness?
Oh, I rest, Your Honor.
Mr. Cadmeyer?
Rest.
And Mr. Quinta, any witnesses you wish to call today?
No, Your Honor. We rest.
Do you have a report and recommendation for the court today as to Austin? Mr. Quinta?
Yes, Your Honor. My recommendation is that at this point in time, he continue to stay in his current placement. Very happy to hear that the Belong and the department have changed their recommendation to family reunification. And I know the last time I talked to Austin, that was first and foremost on his mind.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cadmeyer, anything on behalf of your client? Mr. Garano?
We are asking to extend the case, Your Honor, by the recommendation we've heard today. It seems like we're headed towards reunification, but they're going to need more time, sir.
Mr. Hilly?
Since the parents got a late start, I have no choice but to go and join Attorney Cadmeyer and his recommendation.
So, Ms. Cuadrado, the attorneys for the parents, although I don't believe they filed a written motion requesting an extension in this case, most likely based upon extraordinary circumstances. What is the department's position on that?
I believe that the department's position would be in favor of an extension, just given the fact that we're currently set for trial on April 18th. The parents are going to be no way done with services by that time. We don't know how long Austin will be at. I think an extension would be appropriate in this case.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Curado. So based upon the testimony of the witnesses and the argument of counsel, the court will continue Austin's current placement, and his placements meet all his needs, both physical and emotional at this time. The court finds that the parents are in partial compliance with their court-ordered services. I further order that the child advocates may agree to increased contact and visitation by Austin as the case progresses without coming back to court. Based upon the oral request or verbal request of Mr. Hilly and Mr. Cadmeyer, as well as the agreement of the department, the court will at this time grant an extension in this case based upon extraordinary circumstances pursuant to Texas Family Code Section 263-401. With that being said, our new dismissal date in this case will now be November 11th, 2023. And our next hearing in this case, which was a trial setting on April 18th, is now vacated. And so our next hearing will be a permanency hearing on June 13th, 2023 at 3. If necessary, we'll have a trial on the merits scheduled for October 3rd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. That's a long time from now, so hopefully we can get this case finished up long before then. I must continue to admonish you in this case that your parental rights are subject to further restriction or even termination unless you're willing and able to provide Austin with a safe environment. Do each of y'all understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So obviously Austin has a few things that he's working on. You need to continue to be a part of his efforts to get home, and you need to make changes in your life that will allow him to get home and be in a safe and appropriate environment. So let's Let's work hard during this case. I'll see you next here in a couple of months, and my expectation is that things are going to be a lot better than they are today. Hopefully, you'll work some services. Austin will be further along in his program, and we'll be closer to reunifying y'all as a family again. Okay, so now I look at my boxes and realize I completely skipped over CASA today. So, Ms. Gobler, is there anything you would like me to know today? Sorry, I just muted you. There we go.
Megan said everything, mostly what I was going to say. I'm going to talk to Austin this afternoon, so I'll have a better report for the next time we have hearings.
Okay, well, CASA is very important to me. I'm sorry that I skipped over you, Ms. Gobler.
I understand.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here today. Again, our next hearing in this case is going to be on June 13th, 2023 at 3 p.m. You may be excused at that time.